Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Sam from Historic Travels and welcome to another video. Okay guys, so hey, welcome to the very first episode in a brand new series of videos that I'm going to be making called Historic Minis. Now the purpose of these videos is to cover a wide range of historic topics. It could be about maritime history and covering ships such as the Titanic or, whatever other projects I think are interesting enough to make a video about. These videos are going to be in the same general style to my other videos with the exception of length. These videos are going to be relatively short, somewhere around 3 to 5 minutes in length, give or take, and the whole point of these videos is just to give you guys a general overview of whatever topic we are discussing. And then if you would like to learn more about the topic, I should have other normal videos on my channel that you can go and watch there. Now, do not worry, I'm not going to be canceling making my regular videos. Stand by for Empress of Ireland coming very soon. I can't wait for you guys to see that. But this is just something that I can do in the meantime. That way I can get back to a more frequent upload schedule because I'm sure you all know that I haven't been uploading as much due to my job. But yeah, I thought this would work as a way to start making videos again, deal with my work schedule, and eventually get to make full-fledged videos again like I used to. Anyway guys, with that intro out of the way, let's begin the very first episode of the Historic Mini-series. And the topic we're going to be covering today is, why was the RMS Titanic built? I hope you enjoy. The story of the Titanic can be traced back to the late part of the 19th century. At this time, competition between steamship companies was at an all-time high. Companies were doing everything they could to build the biggest, fastest, and most luxurious vessels they could in order to try to entice the general public to sail on their prospective vessels when they were sailing from Europe to America or America to Europe and so on and so forth. Now, in the year 1897, a brand new ship would come into service that would forever alter the future of the transatlantic shipping industry. This vessel was known as the Kaiser Wilhelm der Grosse. It was the very first four-funnel ship, and it was built by Germany. Now, the impact that the Kaiser Wilhelm der Grosse would have on this entire industry cannot be understated. And while people at the time didn't exactly realize it, the Kaiser Wilhelm der Grosse would forever alter the way that steamships would be built in the future. Now, the success of the Kaiser Wilhelm der Grosse cannot be understated. In fact, she was so successful that British steamship companies like the White Star Line and the Cunard Line were beginning to take notice. But when it came to the White Star Line, they decided to take a somewhat different approach when they were trying to decide how to compete with these new German ships. Instead of trying to outclass these ships in speed, which is traditionally what all of these other steamship companies did, they tried to outclass other ships with speed, size, and luxury. White Star decided to just focus on luxury and size. They didn't care too much about speed. And the way they would try to market these ships to the public was, okay, so it may take you an extra day or two to get to your destination on our ships, compared to the competitor, but you'll be a lot more comfortable doing it. And the ships are bigger. So, with this approach in mind, they decided to build a brand new vessel. This ship would enter service in the year 1899, and her name was the RMS Oceanic. And the RMS Oceanic would go on to have a very successful career with White Star, and people absolutely loved the Oceanic. The Oceanic, in fact, was so successful that White Star ordered a whole new class of liner to help sail along with the RMS Oceanic. These ships would be similar in design to the Oceanic, and there would be 4 of them. The name of this class of ship was the Big Four, and the names of these 4 ships were the Baltic, the Adriatic, the Celtic, and the Seadric. And all of these ships would go on to have successful careers and were great for the White Star Line. Now, while all of this was going on, Cunard Line wasn't just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. In fact, they were in the process of planning and building a brand new revolutionary class of liner. Now, Cunard Line decided to build these ships with the idea that they were not only going to build the biggest and most luxurious ships in the world, but they also wanted them to be the fastest. This is how they were differentiating themselves from White Star Line. But if they were building the biggest and most luxurious ships in the world, how on earth could they make these ships the fastest in the world? The bigger they are, the more power you need to move them. Well, they were going to achieve this with a brand new revolutionary type of steam engine that had been invented a few years earlier. This engine was called the Parsons steam turbine. Up to this point, most steamships used the traditional triple expansion reciprocating steam engine, and while these were good, they weren't going to break any speed records. This is what Cunard Line was hoping could be achieved with the Parsons steam turbine. They did some tests with this engine a few years earlier on a small experimental vessel called the Turbinia, and it was very promising. So, with the engine and all of these technical specifications figured out, they began building 2 brand new revolutionary ships, and their names would be the Lusitania and the Mauretania. Now, once the Lusitania and Mauretania entered service, their success was immediately noticeable to the White Star Line. These ships were just breaking all kinds of records. The public loved to sail on them. Both the Lusitania and Mauretania basically stole the blue ribbon back and forth from each other in the fastest crossings going across the Atlantic. And the White Star knew that they were going to have to step up their game if they were going to compete with the Cunard Line. So they began planning out a brand new revolutionary class of liner in order to compete with the Cunard Line. However, just like what they did with the RMS Oceanic and the Big Four ships when they were trying to compete with these German companies and the Kaiser Wilhelm der Grosse, they decided once again to build the biggest and most luxurious ships in the world, but not worry about speed. Exact same thing they did before. This whole new class of liner would be known as the Olympic class liners, and it would be made up of 3 ships: the RMS Olympic, the RMS Titanic, and the HMHS Britannic. Now, when they were figuring out the design of the Olympic class liners, they originally decided that these ships would only have 3 funnels. That's all they needed to service the boiler rooms that were on board these ships. However, White Star noticed how popular the 4-funnel ship design or appearance was to the general public. So what they decided to do was add a 4th dummy funnel to the Olympic class liners. Now, when I say dummy funnel, this funnel, while it didn't service a pair of boiler rooms, so in that instance it was a fake funnel, they actually used it for a handful of other purposes. So the funnel did do something. Instead of venting smoke from the boiler room, this funnel will be used to vent smoke from a fireplace on board, vent the steam from the galleys, help circulate fresh air throughout the interior of the Olympic-class ships. So yeah, it was a cool way to make use of the 4th dummy funnel while keeping the 4-funnel look that the general public loved on these steamships. However, as I'm sure many of you already know, the Olympic-class liners, for the most part, would not have long and successful careers, with the exception of the Olympic, which actually did have a long and successful career, but she was scrapped in the 1930s. The RMS Titanic, once she was completed, sank after striking an iceberg on her maiden voyage, and the HMHS Britannic, around a year or so after she entered service, while she was serving as a hospital ship during the First World War, struck a mine and sank. So, unfortunately, even though the idea was very sound with the Olympic-class liners, only the RMS Olympic achieved what the White Star was hoping would happen with these brand new ships. And with that, that concludes the first episode of the historic mini-series. Now all of you have a general idea as to why the RMS Titanic was built. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it a like. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much. It really helps out a lot. And let me know what you guys thought of this video down in the comments below. I will see you guys in the next one. Y'all take care.